Hi, welcome back to my decorating series. This week we are touring the last 5 floors of my fully decorated house, floors 16 through 20. So by the time I got to the last quarter of this house, I had gone through so many different room ideas that I really only had a few things left that I really knew I wanted to do, and they were very specifically on the 20th floor of the house. So I had to think of what I wanted to do with the last 5 floors kind of as a whole. So because of that, I decided to go with a kind of out-of-the-box concept that the last 5 floors were kind of a boutique hotel space. So we start floor 16 with a lobby, a media room, a ceremony site, and a meeting room. And the lobby was super obvious. You need a place for people to check in, kind of welcome them into the hotel, and set the whole vibe of, I don't know, I guess the rest of the spaces throughout the floors. And I didn't know that we were going to go the direction that we went. I assumed I was going to go more sleek and modern, maybe a little bit more metal and leather, because I knew some of the objects that were in the game. But when I started putting this room together, there were things that I was really interested in using: lanterns, marble, curtains, and it just kind of happened that I went kind of in this warm wood tones and reds and plant life, and yes, touches of marble, which is still on the colder side. But overall, this room set the stage for the direction that the rest of the floors take. So the other rooms on this floor, starting with the media room, I wanted to pick rooms that would be like amenities that you might want for your stay here. You might want to host a convention, or you might want to have a meeting, or you might want to have a wedding or something other big. And so different types of groups and different sizes of groups might want different types of amenities. And so I went ahead and gave us a media room, a kind of a communal space where people could either watch something on some big screens. There are some curtains to close off the spaces in case you wanted a little bit more privacy, but computers in here, storage in here, and relatively simple, but it's a communal space. It's meant to be flexible for whoever might need it. The second room I wanted, which was a fairly obvious one as far as spaces go, like rental spaces go, was a ceremony site, some place that someone might be able to host a wedding, or maybe a communion, or, you know, some other like kind of ceremony or ceremony like type event. You know, you just never know what you might need these kind of spaces for. So yes, it kind of looks almost a little bit like a church or something like that, with the benches and the aisle in the middle, but it's really meant to be flexible like the rest of the spaces on this floor. And honestly, even though I didn't put a lot of stuff in here, I really love how this turned out with the marble. Another place to use these giant roses. I got really into using the Naboo fireplaces after I got the Naboo set from the premium shop. They were probably the biggest motivating factor for me for getting that set, and I did use them on a lot of places after I bought them. And the last room on this floor was a meeting room. Another very standard kind of space that you might have for rent in a hotel space. But yeah, I thought this room in particular was going to end up looking a lot colder because we do have that metallic and leather modern furniture, But because we went in a more warm toned direction, I guess, with those first few rooms, I was like, oh, I could do a brown floor and I could have these kind of big windows that have brown elements in them. And, you know, the chairs could be a little bit more warm, still very functional looking. But yeah, it was interesting having ideas about what I thought rooms and floors were going to be like and having them just kind of evolve and grow on their own as I looked through the objects that were available, the objects I might not have used, and just elements I really liked to play with. So after people can come in and get checked in for their stay here, or maybe they don't ever go past this floor, but the people that do, they need some rooms to stay in. So I was trying to create a hallway-like feel like you might find in a hotel space. I also wanted to give a little bit more amenities. So there are some vending machines on this in this section. Oh, let me look at the rooms real quick so we can see all of what we're looking at. Although it might be obvious since we are in a hallway. But we have the guest corridor, and then a single guest room, a family guest room, and a double guest room. And I wanted to try and play around with some more bedroom and bathroom type things, as well as creating some different size guest spaces for different group sizes, different guest group sizes. You could rent out this whole floor. You could rent out the whole hotel if you wanted to for your event, since it's such a small hotel. But also you might have different size groups staying that aren't connected to each other as well. So having a variety was nice, and it gave me an excuse to play around with some objects. But the other thing I wanted to make sure I did was I put a laundry center in this room, because that's always a nice amenity to have in a hotel space. And then I also put a little bit of an exercise room. Now, these aren't huge rooms, but they are nice amenities to have for guests who stay here. So I thought it was nice to find a place that made sense for them to be in this little weird top of my house boutique hotel place. Each of the suites are kind of different in some ways, just because I wanted to play with kind of different aesthetics. So this first room has got a lot of Beauty and the Beast elements, but I wanted to make sure each suite had kind of a sitting area, maybe a fireplace. Oh, and I believe that is actually technically a TV up there, or a TV screen. But I did want to, you know, kind of pick a movie or, I don't know, a style set and kind of run with it throughout the space. But the other thing I wanted to make sure I did in these suites was make sure that they also had a bathroom. So it made the room smaller, just inherently, because it's not just a bedroom. It's also a sitting room. It's also got kind of an entryway. It also has a bathroom, and a full bathroom at that. So it's actually got a shower and a tub in this one. How fancy is that? But it made it interesting to play with layout and kind of marry all of the different ways that I could break up a room into all three of these different guest suite spaces. And they're all different. I actually really tried hard to make sure that not only were the guest sizes obviously different, but that the layouts of each room was different. So this is the family guest suite. And I wanted to make sure that not only is there a bedroom, a large bed in here, but also like imply that there might be a sofa bed here, so that there would be more sleeping options. But I still gave them a nice little entertainment center, a fireplace. I actually even put this crib in here because the colors were perfect. It was perfect to marry in here. And I thought, well, a family suite, I mean, you don't have to have the crib in here, but it is one of those things, if you look at hotel spaces, frequently will list having cribs as an option. So that's why I wanted to put that in there, besides the fact that the colors went. But I also wanted to put 2 bathrooms in here, which was challenging space-wise. but I wanted to make sure that if a full family was staying in here, having 2 bathrooms would be very nice to have. So yes, they are the same bathroom. They are mirrors of each other, but I really wanted to challenge myself to see what amenities I could put in the room where it still felt like a nice space that you could relax in and didn't feel cramped, but also felt like I maximized the options, you know, for the family that would be staying in there. You know, oh gosh, I can't even tell you how much it'd be wonderful to have 2 full bathrooms in a space with a family of 4. And the last one is a double guest suite. And so this is kind of similar in some ways to the concept of the family guest suite, but this would be more for like if 2 friends rented a space. So you still have an entryway and sitting area, but I also wanted to give them not only their own bathrooms, but their own bedrooms. So luckily that meant I could get away with using single beds in here instead of a double bed or a queen or a king size bed, whatever you want to call the bigger beds. And I did make the rooms the same. So they are also mirroring each other, and the bathrooms are the same. But it's almost like 2 rooms within this one room, complete with their own bathrooms. And I also got to lean really heavily into the alpine stuff. I really love the furniture that's got all the like detailed painting on it and the pattern work. The screens is the same. These beams are the same. You know, like not the same patterns, but the same kind of feeling because they feel like they've been painted, you know, by hand or crafted, you know, with care, that kind of thing. I really love that kind of thing. So I was really excited to get to use the alpine stuff in here. A lot of the tangled stuff is like that too. I don't think I actually used tangled in here. Either way, I did repeat some things like these cabinets. I think 2 of the rooms had these bathtubs, and it was just because it was the easiest to fit in the limited space that I had. And some of the spaces do feel a little tight, like this bathroom feels a little snug, but I think the fact that I got essentially 5 rooms inside this one room is a testament to how far my skills had grown by the time I got to decorating this space. It's kind of crazy getting to go back and look. It took a year and a half to get here, and I still, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I can't believe I did that, because when I started this series, I didn't know if I could stick with it long enough to find out how my skills would evolve. So the next floor is another floor of amenities, because I did want to break up the kind of executive spaces from the, you know, kind of just standard guest spaces. But I also knew there were some more amenities that I needed. So on this floor, we have the breakfast room, a sauna, a ballroom, and a yoga room. And it was a little tricky kind of at the end going, okay, what ideas do I still have left? What ideas have I not done? What ideas could I do differently than other rooms that I have done? And what still needs to be in this hotel space? So I did want a dining area, but kind of a more casual. I don't know if this looks like a casual room. I did kind of go whole hog with the lanterns, but I do love them. And this was an interesting room to put together because I did put some of the Art Deco stuff in here, but it ended up working out really well for me with the lanterns and kind of Asian aesthetics, these counters. This, I believe this is like the kitchen stuff from Mulan. But you wouldn't necessarily in your head go, oh yeah, Art Deco and Mulan goes together. But the black, the red, and the gold, and then like the shoji walls, I don't know, just something about it. Maybe it's just the color palette works so well together for me. But I really got into experimenting with just how much like almost fusion of concepts, aesthetic concepts I could get to try out. And I was always surprised when rooms like this would happen, where it was like, oh, I never would have just looked at those things in the menu and gone, that'll work together. but playing around really does make you more experimental. Especially when you have essentially 80 rooms to do, right? So here is the sauna. And part of the reason that I wanted to do a sauna, because first of all, it would be awesome to have a sauna in a hotel space. But also because when I made my spa, which is this is one of those rooms where I was like, well, I've kind of already done this idea. I felt like this bench in particular kind of deserves to be in its own room. Like a sauna really is kind of just you go and sit in a big, or maybe not even a big, but a kind of a wooden room and just sit and soak. But when I did the sauna, or I'm sorry, the spa before, I had a lot more ideas that I wanted to put in that one space, which worked for a house kind of idea. But I thought for a hotel, I wanted to make it a little bit more simple, a little bit more straightforward. So I went ahead and just made a very straightforward sauna, but I also wanted to make it feel like more than one group or more than one person could use this without feeling like they had to be up sitting in I don't know, an intimate setting with strangers if they didn't want to, because I mean, this hotel's fancy. And once again, your pets can come in here too and relax if they want. Maybe they need some steam heat. So because we also are, I don't know, able to host events such as weddings, I felt a ballroom was very appropriate. And I also had some things that I really hadn't used yet that I really wanted to use. One of those things was this floor, because it is so pretty, but it's so much. It's a lot of floor. This tile work is just so fancy and detailed and busy that I thought, what better place to put that than a room that has almost no furniture in it. So that combined with the walls, the curtains, the windows, this just looks like such a romantic place to have maybe your first dance at your wedding, or just something super special to rent out and dance the night away. Candelabras, this big chandelier once again. This ceiling that's technically a floor that I'd not used yet. You know, I was still trying to find objects I hadn't used yet and make sure they had opportunity to at least be auditioned in spaces and hopefully used. I used a lot of objects that were really challenging, but somehow ended up finding a home. I know I didn't use every single object in the game, and there were things that I definitely liked better and repeated a lot more, but I'm proud of how many things I actually got to use so far in these builds. Now, this is a hard room to see when you first enter because of how blocked off it is with the vines, but this is the yoga room, and I leaned hard into the nature theme of this. But the Naboo windows, the curtains, the vine walls, it just feels so earthy in here. The lanterns, the mushroom, the fungus window things. I don't even remember what these are called. They're so pretty. And I don't know. I just feel like if you woke up and came here in the morning to do yoga, it would just make you feel like one with nature. I stuck some incense in here. It may not, you know, I don't know if incense is still in vogue these days, but I don't know. There's something about it that feels like it's the right vibe to me. And some more beam work, some more banners, just tying into the previous spaces, but still coming up with different ways to make it feel unique. So now we get to go to the 19th floor. And here we are in the executive suite. And it's kind of funny, now that I'm doing like a tour, this almost feels plain compared to the spaces we were just looking at. But let's take a look and see what the rooms are labeled. The executive suite living room, the executive suite bathroom, a bedroom, and an eat-in kitchen. So although this room looks a little bit on the basic side. You'd have to think about, and what I chose to do is that an executive suite might have like one room, maybe two rooms, you know, like maybe it has a whole sitting room and then a bedroom, and then of course an ensuite bathroom or something like that. But we're taking that idea and splitting it into 4 unique spaces. So although this might look a little simple compared to some of the other rooms, we're still looking at essentially a space that's almost twice as big as what well, I don't know, maybe some executive suites are a whole floor, but this is a whole floor. So a nice sitting area, private coffee space, a desk, some bookshelves, a fancy not stove, what is that? It's a fireplace. There we go. I can think of all the words. But then we get into the bathroom, which did get a little colder because of the gray tones, but I really wanted to do something wild in this room. And so even though I did kind of my standard thing where I put, oh no, I did not divide into 2 separate toilet areas. I gave myself, well, it's not me, it's whoever rents the space, right? I gave the guests their own private pet grooming station so that they could either have their pets groomed or groom themselves if they're a hands-on type of person. And then I also made like a toilet and shower area, nice sink, you know, something like that. Lots of plants again, water features. But then, okay, the whole reason that this room is ridiculous is this this hot tub in the back. And complete with water fountains, complete with vine walls. These pillars really layer on a lot of different things, so you can do some really interesting things with these pillars. And so, yeah, I knew this hot tub was available, and so I knew I wanted to put it in the executive suite, and here it is in all its glory. You can actually, the lotus flower light things, you can put stuff in this. You can't put like reeds in there, like not the nature stuff, but if you have objects that can go on water, they can go on this hot tub. Oh, and there's water fountains underneath. They're like little floor tiles. You can put those underneath and they shoot water up. Looks like, you know, it's shooting water out of the tub. Anyway, just some little tips. Didn't realize I could do any of that stuff until I tried it out in this ridiculous but awesome executive bathroom. And then we get into the bedroom, which I also kept relatively simple, but I finally got to use this bed, which has this curtain over it, complete with the curtains around it, making it look like super romantic in here. I kept thinking a lot of these spaces would be something for like a wedding party. And so I did, even though I didn't want to make it totally about romance, I felt like it was still appropriate to give this a little bit of more of a soft romantic vibe, hence all of the reds and pinks. I did stick some luggage in here because I thought it would look cute. Technically, this room isn't rented out at this moment, but we could pretend like somebody's staying here and this is their cute little luggage. But I also like the fact that I did a different wall against the back wall behind the bed because it makes it look like there's a mural painted back there, even though like if you look at the corners you can see that the walls don't match up. But I just thought that was such a cute little idea to put as a backdrop to this romantic looking bedroom. And then, of course, a little couch, you know, a little bit of storage, some lanterns, of course, because we had to use 14,000,002 lanterns in the hotel space. But, you know, when you like something, use it. There's no rules to say you can't. And then we have an eat-in kitchen. And again, I repeated some things, the Naboo window, fireplace, things like that. But I also wanted to use some stuff I hadn't used before once again. So I wanted to make sure I got to use the Alpine kitchen set. And so the pinks really married in with the bedroom. And then, you know, like I've used some of the alpine stuff in some of the other guest suites. And then, of course, all the wood and greenery and just little earthy tones. I finally got to use these chairs, which are so stinking cute. But yeah, still trying to find things I hadn't used yet and just make them work with other spaces that they needed to work with. So it still feels like this is the same hotel, you know, this is the same hotel space. All right, that just leaves one more floor. And this was the floor that kind of started this whole concept for the hotel spaces. And that is because I wanted to make a fancy restaurant on the top floor of my house. And part of it is because when I was growing up, there was a fancy restaurant in town that was at the very top of a building downtown in the city I live in. And it was like the fantasy romantic dinner place to go on a date. You know, growing up, it was like, oh, when you're older and fancy, that would be the most romantic place to go. And so the other part of that was, when you do quests for Remy in this game, he tells you maybe one day you'll have your own restaurant, and then he'll say Shay, whatever your name is. So mine is Shay Lilith, and that is the name of my fancy restaurant on the top floor of my house and the top floor of the hotel space. And so I had to do an entrance for that. And then I needed some workspaces, so I created a pantry and a kitchen. And then, of course, you have to have a dining room. So the entryway was fun to try and puzzle out. I had originally thought that the restaurant was going to be directly up, you know, from the entrance. And then I realized that that meant that the last room I might do would be the kitchen. And I really wanted to end with the dining room itself for the totality of my building series or my decorating series. So that meant that the layout had to change to be kind of this entryway as an L shape. And that was really challenging to cope with. So luckily, I had been practicing how to break rooms up with curtains and beams and all kinds of stuff before now. And it ended up working out. It just took some, you know, lots of math and moving things around like a puzzle. So I repeated this counter look from the hotel lobby because I liked it so much there that I thought, not only does it seem appropriate to repeat that kind of counter look within the same building. I mean, it's more than just the hotel, but like within the same hotel spaces, it seemed appropriate. But also, I just really like how it looked. Like when the lights are on at night, it glows. It almost looks magical. So I repeated that. I made myself a little closet for guests to hang up, you know, their coats, their umbrellas, or whatever. And then, of course, I had to use the big door from Ratatouille. Seemed super appropriate for the entrance to the dining room, but we're not going to look in there yet. I also wanted to make a service corridor so that people who were bussing tables or running food or whatever would have not only lots of storage here for whatever, but also access to the pantry. And the pantry I really wanted to keep super functional and really bright. I also wanted to think about it like, how hard would it be to clean? How, you know, how much storage would you want? What would be practical, but also still appropriate, you know? So I made sure and gave lots of work surfaces. I put crates in here to make it look like things were getting packed and put away, you know, just, oh, and apparently, as I'm filming this, the lighting has changed. So that's one of the things I don't like about this space in particular is how bright the lights ended up being. I think that's going to be one of my number one things to fix when I go back and do some of these rooms again, just visit them, is changing some of the lighting, because the lighting is tricky to do. Some lights are really, really bright, brighter than what you'd expect, and then some lights are not as bright as you'd want them to be. So it makes it a little tricky to go ahead and assume you know what the lighting is going to be like. There is a slider that you can change to see what the lighting will look like, but I don't always remember to do that. And even sometimes when I do, I don't always remember to fix the lights. It might be obvious in this room because look at how bright those lights are. Of course, it is a pantry. You'd want it to be really bright so you could see things and, you know, not chop off extremities accidentally while slicing cucumbers or something. So the last set of kitchen stuff that I had not used that I knew I desperately wanted to try and use was the Tiana stuff. It is so fancy. So fancy. Look at that stove. Oh, and then this was after Lady and the Tramp, so we got the pizza oven. But the floor in here, again, I had forgotten that I used it in the treasure room, which I rediscovered as we toured last week. But I knew that I wanted to lean hard into the Princess and the Frog in this particular build. And just the counters, the crock pot, you know, things like that. But when I started putting this room together, I had the thought of, oh my goodness, a chef's table would be so stinking cute and a way to break up this room into not just function, but also a little bit more intimate setting for guests who'd want to have this experience. So I made myself a little chef's table nook over here, and I'm so glad that I did because I think it's really interesting to have it be in here. It gives me a reason to have this kitchen be a little bit more fancy looking. I mean, besides the fact that we can do that because we, you know, if we want to, but also because we're kind of putting on a show for whoever might dine in this room. Ugh. But again, I feel like the lighting isn't quite right. Maybe by the time I go back to do some of these rooms, we'll have even more lighting options, which would be super cool. They're adding stuff to this game all of the time, so there's always potential. And the last room is the dining room. And I got to use the octopus sushi guy from Monsters, Inc. I almost forgot about him and then went, oh yeah, and he takes up so much room, but I love it. I love the fact that there's not very many tables up here, so it does feel like it would be an exclusive place that you'd have to make reservations for months in advance. It's got a little bit of romance with the lanterns, the curtains, the rose petals floating in the air, but it doesn't feel like it's so much romance that you couldn't also just reserve dinner or have a wedding party maybe or whatever. But I also used the sushi booths. I still repeated the Naboo windows. I finally got to use the Art Deco wall because that's another one that was very difficult. It's so pretty, but it's so busy that it's hard to find spaces that make it not feel overwhelming. And I think because of all of the curtains and other things that go in front of it, the fact that the pattern is only visible in certain areas, I think really helps make it not feel overwhelming. And yeah, it's wild how this room turned out, how this house turned out. And I'm so glad I pushed myself. It was really challenging. I do not consider myself a decorator. I usually decorate like maybe 1 or 2 spaces in a game, and then I just let everything else be totally functional. So the fact that I made it through the house is a testament to the determination I felt to push my limits, and I'm glad I did it. The next adventure is trying to decorate the outdoor spaces, so stay tuned. I will be getting to those before too much longer. That's it for today's decorating adventure. If you liked this video, a thumbs up is a great way to let me know, and a subscription will keep you up to date on my latest shenanigans. If you want to hang out with me live, I stream on YouTube and Twitch on Thursday evenings and middays on Sunday. I hope you have a lovely day, night, time, wherever you are, whenever you are, and I'll see you next time.